So our next presenter is Paul Harasha. Paul has been a professor of sociology at MCC since 2001. His academic areas of interest include cultural diversity, race relations, gender issues, religious pluralism, social implications of technology, and global citizenship. As a professor, his main goal is to use sociological perspective to develop and enhance his students' critical thinking skills about the society around them. Paul strives to guide his students in using their own talents to find their path to make a positive impact in their communities. So welcome, Paul. Thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah and Lane, thanks for putting this together. You guys are awesome and prepping us and getting us ready. So I appreciate the work behind the scenes. Ton invited me, caught me in the hallway. I couldn't tell her no. So thank you. This is a wonderful space and I appreciate it. I really don't know how innovative my project is, but it'll be an interesting, just share some things, but a little bit 180 degrees from math. Seth, great job. I appreciate it. Probably back some little bit of nightmares for some of us in math. I do have I don't want to go down this path too long, but I have a degree in engineering. So I was looking at some of those functions and graphs and it brought back lots of memories, but some really good stuff you're doing for our students. I have to say when I used to see SOC and the emails and all different places, and in my mind, I used to think, wow, sociology is really important. People are like SOC was it's sociology. So I see Vanessa out there. I think she was out there, another sociology professor. So SOC is our abbreviation. So but SOC is a good one too. So I have some slides. I'll share my project I'm doing this semester, and let's see if I can get this shared. Thanks, Lane. So I'll be very cognizant of time. I'll try to be 15, 20 minutes, and then we can do some whatever questions are generated or thoughts. So I've been doing service learning for a long time. Probably, I was talking to Ton yesterday. I started, my first position was out at the Red Mountain campus, and I started with an elementary school out there with my students. And over the years, my students have been sprinkled all over the East Valley, and Boys and Girls Club and food banks and elementary schools and just various things to do, get involved in the community and be of service and that type of thing. And service learning is not unique to me. I know probably some of you out there are doing it. This semester has actually been the most rewarding activity I've actually been involved in as a faculty. I think coming out of the pandemic, I think Sarah mentioned it at the beginning, the way to connect to our students is changing, just in general, just with technology and society and culture, but then out of the pandemic. A little added thing that might be for another day and another presentation, but I partnered with 2 groups on campus, which has been really cool, a little bit extra challenge, but actually really fun. I'm teaching a class with just student athletes. So I have a pretty large class with just student athletes across all sports across this campus. And I was surprised because of their time and how busy they are, how many of them wanted to do service learning. But their time is only on Friday. They're between practice and games and competition and all that. Friday mornings was really their only availability. So I was able to partner with Eisenhower, which I'll come back to in a second. But the other part we added is I partnered with exercise science. And Michelle Young's class. And this is probably a separate discussion, but Michelle's class are actually creating the lesson plans for my students to deliver to 5th graders at a recess out at Eisenhower. So we got, which is really cool. They're putting the lesson plan together. My students are delivering it. I want to step back to Eisenhower, and I apologize. I've had a partnership with Eisenhower for probably 5 or 6 years. The principal is amazing. He's accepting so many of our students in education studies, and Ton's students are out there volunteering in classrooms and helping teachers and learning the field of education and that type of thing. My students approach it from they might do some career exploring in education, but it's more just looking at sociological ideas and concepts and there. But anyway, this collaborative project has just been super cool and super fun. And what's happening is 15 of my students in that class, service learning is volunteer, or not volunteer, it's volunteer, but it's also an option. My students can choose between traditional research papers and give them 3 or 4 research papers they have to do, or they can volunteer 20 hours out in the community. And so that it's just an option, I don't require it. And as I said, about 15 of my student athletes chose to do this project. I'll get to the details in it. I just wanted to step back. Sociology, the academic definition, I won't go through all this, but the academic definition of sociology is really, it's a science, it's a social science. We systematically study human behavior and look at institutions, their influence on us. The definitions in a traditional textbook, it's not real, it's exciting stuff for me, but our students, we have to really find ways to apply it to their real lives, connect it to today. So I approach and I reach these objectives, but I kind of do it through different means and kind of through popular culture and through volunteer work and through the kind of side doors and back doors, to be honest, so they can, most of them will not be sociology majors. So I think about sociology, and it's really hard to assess. And if anybody teaches the social sciences and the humanities, I mean, trying to assess things and their critical thinking skills, and it's a challenge for me. But the way I approach this discipline of sociology, we are influenced by so many things that we can't see. And it's, from our gender to our race, to our class, to our parents' education, to where we live, our age, all these different things. So I approach this, all of my assignments and lectures and activities, trying to see these social forces that we think are common sense, but not necessarily so. Sam Richards is a current sociologist at Penn State. He's an incredible professor today. So just like math and physics and other sciences, we're trying to find things that are hidden. Sociology is the same thing. Human behavior, we're trying to find these things that are hidden. And I think in the classroom and readings and lectures, it works, it's possible. But when they go out, students go out and see things really with this lens, they start seeing things that they hadn't thought about before, type of thing. C. Wright Mills is a sociologist that turned me on to sociology 30 years ago, 25 years ago. And this is really where I come in, just thinking about sociology, is helping our students understanding their individual lives. It just didn't happen in a vacuum. It didn't happen magically. There's a lot of things that are happening historically that impact all of us today. And for us, maybe lived a little bit and have some critical thinking skills, we kind of get it. But our students haven't thought about these things too much, and trying to get them to see the historical things going on in this society really help them understand their place, why parents have as much money as they had or don't have money, and why they have friends or who they date, and what their current interests are, and all those different things are connected to history. So as I teach sociology, I'm trying, like I said at the beginning, really trying to get them to think about these things from different angles, and that's where service learning comes in. So these are my students. I'll go through some photos really quickly. These are my students. These are all student athletes at MCC. We have some baseball players. We got a couple basketball players, softball players, soccer, tremendous students. They were out there this morning, out at Eisenhower this morning, doing their Friday morning thing. These are them again, having fun. I'll go quickly through some. So the service part is happening. So my original question was, are they actually serving and learning? I guarantee you they're serving. They're mentoring these are students. Sometimes our students look just as tall as the 5th graders, but these are some 5th graders out there. They are mentoring them, they're guiding them, they're teaching them about exercise, they're teaching them about healthy diet and sleep and studying and time management. I know they're servicing, so that's not even a question. A couple of young 5th graders there, a little too hot to play kickball. That's the group that got the picture on the left. The gentleman on the right is the 5th grade teacher. He's been super helpful out there. Just some other pictures. These are students, our students and Eisenhower students. These are your students, our students out there servicing. The assessment is the challenging part. Are they applying sociological concepts? Are they understanding them? Am I connecting it to lectures, textbooks? I'm still struggling with that, to be honest, in the short term. I'm really idealistic. Long term, beyond the class, beyond sociology, this experience, service learning in general, this one specifically, they're becoming better people. They're understanding their values. They're understanding what it is to be mentors, etc. I know ungrading is kind of I don't want to say in vogue because it's really important. It's happening. I feel like I kind of been ungrading service learning for a long time. I give point value, but it's really just do you do it? And this is like my little Canvas little thing there. They have to do paperwork, they have to make it official. They got to get it signed by the teacher, and they have to sign it, and they got to sign some liability. And I give them so many weeks to get that turned in. They either do it or they don't do it. There's no points there. The timesheet is they document their hours. Those that have done service learning know this. And basically they do their hours, they don't do their hours type of thing. And we agree on like how many points per hour and things like that. But so the first two, the paperwork and the timesheet, that's just straight, you do it or you don't do it. The reflection, I used to put a ton of points on reflection. Like that would be the most important part, reflecting it, writing about it. And I decided to just really tone that down. And not a whole lot of point total and percentage. I don't want them to be concerned about the points. We spend so much time reflecting in class. And then they're teaching, I break them in groups. The students that don't do service learning are doing research paper related to things related to race and culture and education in class. So they kind of teach each other and share with each other. These are some things that I try to get them to think about. This is really fun sociology. Like Seth probably gets really geeked up about some of those math functions. I get super excited about this stuff. I won't go into it too detail, but this is fun stuff for our students to think about. On the bottom is the bottom axis is percent of students that are low income at a school, and the left axis of our students in third grade passing English and reading, the ELA. And it doesn't take much of a sociological mind if you know the schools in Mesa to look at this. And the further you go east in Mesa, much higher test scores and much lower percentage of low income. So it's easy sociological things to talk about the influence of class on how well you do in school. So is it because some students don't value education or parents don't value education? That's kind of the stereotype we have out there. And but once you control for class and wealth, test scores are very, very different. But I don't know if you can see on the left side, Eisenhower's down pretty low on their percent passing. And some of these schools right around here, if you're familiar with these schools, Guerrero, Roosevelt, and some of those are around MCC. But it's just a fun sociologic, not fun because this is real people's lives. It's a critical piece of our society. And we all know that on one level, money helps a lot. But then once the students see those kids and they realize the level of how smart those kids are, and like they speak multiple languages, most of them bilingual, and then how it doesn't reflect on their school or their testing. So we talk about testing, education, all these different things. This is from Robbie, the principal at it. He's let me use this. You just look at the bottom, kind of the bottom two rows, really, really quick. This is when they're doing their ELA testing. Eisenhower compared to the MPS, Mesa Public Schools District, it's very low. So he really is pushing just different ways, and he just thinks our students can help them and whatnot. So their test scores, ECFI is Eisenhower Center for Innovation. So Mesa Public Schools, but they changed their name a little bit because they have some grants for technology. So I have my students look at things like this in class. We come back to class and we look at the test scores and things like that. I think this is math. This is math right here. I don't know if you followed the data that just came out. The national data just recently was really low and really depressing because of just in general, but also COVID. So Eisenhower's test scores are relatively low. So there's a need in our society and things like that. And they're going to be our leaders someday. They're going to be paying our taxes, and they're going to be taking care of us, and they're going to be our dentists and our nurses and things like that. So we're all stakeholders and all that. I don't need to tell you that. Probably the most important part for sharing with you is just the assessment. 4 minutes. Like I said, before I used to just do more like a traditional research paper on the not a research paper, but a traditional reflective paper on the right. After the students did their 20 hours, when they were all over the place, like I said, few were at schools, few were at Boys and Girls Club and things like that. I would have them write just a kind of reflective paper, and I broke it off into like 3 areas. Like, what were you thinking before you started? What did you think of this assignment I was giving them? Had you ever volunteered before? Then I had some questions like, when you were doing it, just what were your duties, what were your responsibilities? How was it funded? And then kind of the after, did it change your views on nonprofits, education? I still use these questions, but since the pandemic and with this specific group activity, I've changed it a lot. The way we reflect and learn, it is continuous. Almost every class period, whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes or the whole time, I have them reflecting on it as a whole group. So I mix them up, service learning students are with other ones. So we just talk about their own, so it's things like, so I put over here, they do a reflective paper, they do class presentations, but just a lot of group discussions. How do I assess that? I don't know, to be honest. I'm being straight up honest. I can't put a point total on it. I'm trying to develop their critical thinking skills to move beyond the political divisiveness out there in the real world. I'm trying to get them to understand their place in the world, what they can contribute, develop empathy, develop these desire to get involved in the community, to collaborate more as they go into the real world. And I can't put a grade value on that. So it's really just, are they, and then anyway, so we talk about, I assess it by, can you apply your own education? Do you remember when you were in 3rd grade and how you felt being, were you in the honors or the gifted, or were you in the ESL, or were you in and how did that feel? And we talk about tracking, and we talk about implicit bias from teachers, and we talk about the role of class, and were you on a free lunch, and how did that feel? And you get incredible experience. And just one real quick anecdote that happened this week, that just of their stories. You teach our kids, our students, all the time, and we connect to them, and we fall in love with our students and their stories. But I had a student that was he's a Latino student right now, and he's honor student here. He was an honor student all through high school, but none of his close peers knew that he was an honor student, and he was getting a 4.0. He was a male of color, a male Latino, and it was just so, it didn't surprise me because I teach sociology, but to have him say it, my other students, so the idea of being a male, being too cool for school, being a student of color, it's not as accepted. So he went through his whole K through 12, and his close peer knit didn't know how good of school he was, and he kind of hid his books. And that's just an anecdote. I get something that was pretty dramatic one, and really powerful for the other students to think about. So the way I assess it is when I see my students 10 years from now, and I'll say, yes, you did good in service learning. So my assessment is really, do they turn in the paperwork, the legal, to make it legal and we're covered? Do they turn in their timesheet and get it signed by the teacher and by the staff there? And then through their different reflective things. They have to turn in one reflective paper, but it's more in class type of things. I wrote some other things, but I'm going to stop there. I think that would be good to stop.
Well, I know that there's a couple administrators with us, so we're just going to ignore that they're here, but you just keep on ungrading.
Thank you,
What you're
Sarah.
doing is completely invaluable. I mean, you don't need to put a number to that. We don't have to assign that to a spreadsheet somewhere. Like what you're doing is much better than any grade we could ever give a student.
Thank you, sir. I fully agree. It's yeah. And if anybody has any ideas, even better how to put values on. But yeah, I at the beginning when we're brand new teachers and we're trying to follow just do it, follow the rules and you're doing it. As I've raised my two kids and I see the challenges our students have, see the challenges of the world, that grade means less to me than developing students that care about the society, um, want to get involved. They get turned on to school. They get turned on to like really wanting to go out there. They didn't want to go this morning, yesterday on class because they're tired. These are student athletes, like tired, but they encourage each other. And I didn't make it today. I wasn't out there this morning, but I got a word from the principal that they were all there and doing their thing with the kids. So,
well, it just highlights that assessment is not a one size fits all. I teach anatomy and we're training people to go on to be doctors and nurses. So it's kind of important for us to give a grade. Like we have to assess that they've learned certain things, but not every class is that way. And I feel that your class is a perfect example of why the grade, that actual letter or the points associated with a letter is not the same. So it's a perfect example of a one size is not fits all for assessment.
I was reading what Ton, and then Julie has a good one there. Yeah, I think Ton, those that teach the social sciences, we're being more flexible, more innovative, more creative, for sure. And I think these students that come out taking Seth's math class and taking our social science classes, we're going to have some well-rounded, well-balanced students that are going to really be productive in our society. Julie's question, I think it's a really good one, or a comment about pre-service learning reflection. I need to do something like that, and I'm sure there's some tools out there. And Julie, if you have one handy or a link, I would jump on it. I think that's really important. If I find one, I'll share it with you. I take that. I think there's some good. Need to do some pre-service learning. I spend so much time at the beginning, like selling pre-service learning. Like you can do this. You can fit it into your schedule. These are the hoops you have to go to, and it takes a long time to get that rolling. Then I kind of forget that pre-testing of them.
Maybe not necessarily require that they do pre-service learning, but just do a survey. Have any of you ever volunteered anywhere? Have any of you ever done community service anywhere? Like, if so, what have you done? Like, they don't have to go out and do something before, but yeah, you can just like, how do you feel about volunteering? Or like, have you ever wanted to, or thought it should be a priority and just haven't? Like, you could devise some sort of survey.
Yeah, that's good. So it's really actually pretty simple. I do just show of hands how many volunteer, but nothing formal. I think a simple tool like that, I think that's a good idea. I think Lane has her hand up maybe.
So I was just going to jump on Julie's comment because I really like that. And I think the idea about doing that, the pre-service learning reflection and having them think about that. And it sounds like you do a lot of reflections throughout the course of the semester, and just kind of tagging on to the idea that assessments don't have to be point related like that, that you're doing those assessments every time you have them do that discussion and this reflection as you go about it. And I think that I personally would think that that would be much more helpful to the students, because not only are they getting to discuss it, but they're also getting feedback from you. So they're getting this formative feedback all the way throughout the entire semester. And even though, it's not, okay, 10 points because you had this discussion kind of thing, you're assessing and they're learning, and you're providing feedback, and then they're doing it again. And so I even think with the structure that you already have, that reflection in the beginning would even be a little bit more powerful with that, having that, and then all the way through, and the reflection at the end. So I love it. Love it.
No, it's you say I do reflecting with them and I'm giving them feedback, which I am, but it's really cool. You've been in those settings in all of your classes. I'm sure you have, where other students are shining light on things and experiences. And I've seen that when the students do service learning, when it's probably like a science lab, when you're actually doing something, then you get those questions. I feel like the same thing when the students' questions from service learning is very different than reading a really cool article or watching a cool TED Talk. When they're actually doing it, their questions, or not even their questions, their insight or their perceptions when they'll see how a teacher responded to the male or female students, or just things like that. So the students actually do help, or very helpful in the reflections.
We have a question in the CTO. Go ahead.
Yeah, Paul, I just was wondering, do they work with the same students at the elementary school the whole time? And would it be good for them to get feedback from the students, maybe in an anonymous survey or something that would help you show them what impact they're having on these kids?
Wow, I hadn't thought about feedback from the students. That's really, really cool. I kind of missed the first part.
I bet it would be amazing to hear how those students are being impacted by them.
Paul, the first part was she asked if they were doing the same, using or interacting with the same set of students the whole time.
Yeah, awesome. So the first part of that, thank you, Sarah. The first part of that, in general, all my service, when they go to the school, especially when they go to Eisenhower, they go to the same classroom continuously, like every Tuesday morning or every Tuesday, Thursday. So it's the same classroom, same students. This Friday group project, definitely same group of fifth graders every Friday. So they get some consistency, they get to know them. And they, 9 out of 10, 99 out of 100, those students are MCC students. They feel like a king or queen for a day. The elementary school students fall in love with them. They do. They don't care if they're white or black or brown or short or young or old. They'll tell them if they have a bad hair day or maybe have a pimple or their name is weird, but they fall in love with them. A lot of them, I shouldn't say a lot of them, many times the students will write them little letters when they leave or little pictures, and Ton, I'm sure, has had that experience with her students. But that actual reflection with the students, I've never done anything like that. Whether it's anonymous or when I started with Eisenhower 5 or 6 years ago, I did a post conversation with at their staff meeting, and I wish we would have kept that going. Maybe Ton, we could think about that. I don't know if we've ever done anything like that. But to just get reflection from the teachers, but also have students, I think that's a really cool idea. This is why I'm glad I presented here, because there's ideas that we can just take this to the next level for sure.
I think a cool video reflection would be fun. Like if someone just went, not one of the students that had visited, but someone else, if they went and video just like, hey, how did you enjoy? I think hearing it from those little ones would be really powerful.
So just I'm working with possibly working with Andrew in the CTL. If he's there, big shout out to Andrew. He's been helping on some other things, but we're gonna try to document this group project through video. But we got to get through some hoops with the video release type of thing. But
yeah,
wonderful.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments for Paul or Seth?
This is Kimberly. I have a quick one for Paul. I just wanted to say I absolutely love the notion of asking your students to think back to when they were in the elementary school grade. And that would be a really interesting place to start on their notion of self-reflection. And then take it from there to whatever. And by the way, I've already got a couple of resources. I'm doing a little Google thing. So I'll send what I find to Lane and Sarah, and then hopefully they can share with all of you.
Oh, wonderful, Kimberly. Yeah, it's easy for all of us we just go back in our mind in third grade, and even for us that are 40 years removed from third grade or more, it still comes back. So our students really enjoy talking about it, and I think there'd be a good way to do a pre-service learning. They talk about it. They talk about how the teacher treated them or their good experiences. And unfortunately, a lot of my students, and I don't want to be over dramatic, but a lot of my students of color, their experiences weren't always, once they think, as they get beyond it, now they can put words to it and they have little critical thinking skills. It wasn't always the best experience. They said, oh, I think and most of our teachers are beautiful, wonderful people. It's more like that implicit bias. It's not malicious. It's just those blind spots that our teachers have. And then we can put words to it. And so, yeah, thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, Blake, the data is really, there's some, I think all of us, me included, should go out in our grade schools and help reading. Our teachers need that. The students need help reading. Go
Yeah.
volunteer. I'm gonna challenge all of us. Go mentor kids and read.